Ever since the 10th gen Civic came out back in 2016, it's been a pretty good hit for Honda. For 2019, Honda revised the Civic and gave it a mid-cycle refresh to change some things that a lot of people didn't like, especially the volume knob that's back. So today I'm checking out the new 2019 Honda Civic EX with the turbo. Let's get started. So in front of the Civic, for 2019, Honda did revise the outside, which is a difference from the hatchback because Honda didn't do much to the outside of the hatchback. So that's kind of weird. But as you can see, what Honda's done is just tone down the big plastic pieces. Like down here, they just added a nice little chrome bit over here and shrunk this little fog light bezel part. And I personally think it looks a lot better than last time with all those big honeycomb grills, and I don't know, I think that was a little bit too much. But since this is the EX, you have halogen projector beam headlights, and the high beams are also halogens as well. And you have an incandescent turn signal bulb and an LED daytime running light that comes around here. And also new for 2019, all Civic sedans and hatchbacks get this black grille. Before it was only for the Sport, hatchback, and SI. And I'm glad that Honda did that for all of them because it looks a lot better than the big chrome grille. So like I said, this isn't a complete refresh, it was just a little update. So the silhouette of the car looks pretty much identical to last year, which I do like. It looks a lot Accord-like. It looks a lot bigger than the Accord, but it's not, obviously, because it's a Civic. For wheels, this EX model gets 17-inch alloy wheels, and they're wrapped around 215 50-size tires. And they are Firestone FT140s. For what they are, it's an economy car, obviously. It's not bad, and the car actually handles pretty well, but if you want a good handling Civic, get the SI. Civics, like EX models and above, get Honda's lane watch system. So it's pretty much just a camera that's mounted onto the side of the mirror, and whenever you put your right blinker on, or press the little button on the turn signal column itself, this camera will turn on and pop up on the display, which is very nice, especially if you're downtown in the city. There's bicyclists, there's people that you can hit. Don't hit someone, but it's definitely a nice touch. But it's only on this side. Now in the back of the Civic, things haven't really changed much at all. You still have those C-shaped taillights, which look pretty cool at night. I like them personally because you can tell it's a Civic from the back at night. The hatchbacks and the sedans get pretty much the same LED accent. And as for the taillights, you have LED taillights. The brake lights are incandescent bulbs, as are the turn signals and the reverse light. Also, just like last year, you have these little black inserts with the reflectors, and then you have a chrome bar that wraps around the bottom, which I like the rear end of the Civics, but I don't know. I think they could do a little bit better. Also, this one has an accessory rear lip spoiler, and it does something. I mean, it just makes it look a little bit better than before. Also, I forgot to mention the trunk. Now, there's no hybrid variant of the Civic. If you do want a hybrid, that's pretty much the insight. So trunk space will never be reduced for the Civic sedan. Behind here, obviously the trunk isn't the biggest, especially if you're used to an Accord or something mid-size, because this is compact, but it's pretty decent for what it is. And you can also fold the seats down with these two latches over here. It's a 60-40 split. You could fit a few backpacks, maybe 2 or 3 roller cases, 2 or 3 golf bags, or 2 or 3 people, or whatever you put in the trunk of your Civic. But I won't judge. Now, just before we get inside, here's the key fob for the Civic. So pretty much any EX Civic and above will have this key fob. So you have your lock, unlock, remote start, trunk release, and panic button. And for remote start, you just click the lock button once and then hold the start button for about 2 seconds. It'll flash and then it starts running. And then to shut it off, you just hold that same button again. Now, since you have the smart key access system, you can just walk up to the car with the key in your pocket or your purse, and to unlock the car, just grab the door handle and it'll beep twice, and then to lock it, just press this button here and it'll beep once. Now, the exterior color of this Civic is called Platinum White, and I do like it, and the interior color is just black. So looking at the seats, it's just a black cloth material with this checkered pattern in the middle and some gray stitching on the sides. The seats are pretty comfortable, but it might take a little bit of time to get used to the seating position and to find how you like it. But you do have an 8-way power driver's seat, and the passenger seat is manual. And now looking at the door panel, all the materials on the top are soft touch, which is nice. You have some silver plastic trim here and on the door handle, and some black plastic, which isn't piano black, thankfully, behind that. You also have a soft touch cloth armrest, and the side of the door panel is also soft touch. Now over here are your window controls. The driver and passenger side windows are automatic. There are your window locks, door locks, and the mirror controls, and right there is your trunk release. And for the fuel release, you just press it, and then there's no cap, so there's a funnel in the trunk, which I forgot to talk about, but that's what you use if you ever run out of gas. Now back to the door, you have a bottle holder here and some storage. Now looking at these buttons, this button turns on or off the pre-collision braking system. This button turns off the traction control, and this button controls the lane departure warning. Now inside of the Civic, the doors are pretty nice to open and close, and the step-in height isn't actually too bad, of course, because it's a sedan. But looking at the steering wheel, it's Honda's more recent steering wheel that they've been using on the Civic and CR-V. And on the left side of the wheel, you have your Bluetooth and audio controls. So right here is the volume. This pad over here controls the center display. This also does. And these are the Bluetooth phone buttons to pick up, hang up, and voice control. And the horn has a really cute little meep meep horn. And on the right side of the wheel, you have your cruise control setting. The main button turns it on or off. There's your lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, set, resume, and cancel. Now, just like any other car with push button start, you just put your foot on the brake and keep the key anywhere inside the car, but put your foot on the brake and press the start button to go. Now behind the wheel, you have your headlight controls, which are automatic, and there's that button for the lane watch, and right here are your wiper controls. And looking at the gauges, on the left you have your temperature gauge, in the center you have your digital speedometer and information screen, and on the right you have your fuel gauge. Now, like I said, you use these buttons to control the information screen. So if you look at it, right now we're on information and the trip computer. Then you can look at the boost gauge, because this is the 1.5 turbo. Then there's your maintenance minder, audio, phone, and this one changes your units to miles to kilometers. And then back to the regular information screen. Now looking at the center display, Honda did revise this, thankfully. So now you have hard touch buttons on the side, like home, audio, phone, and the back button. But it's the same system that the Civic's been using since 2016. So I was hoping that Honda added the new Accord's infotainment system, which would have been nice. But the screen is pretty responsive, and I haven't really had any complaints, besides I wish it being the newer system. But it's not that hard to get used to, and you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Like last year, you have dual zone climate control on EX and above. For 2019 also, wait, I almost forgot about this. You have a volume knob, finally, because before you had that stupid little toggle thing which was useless when you're driving. But back to the climate control system, now you can control the fan speed from separate buttons from hard touch buttons, because last year you'd have to hit the climate button and then fiddle with the climate control system in that. But it's pretty nice. But I'm really glad that Honda skipped away from the buttons being in the infotainment system and now put some hard touch buttons. But here's your temperature control for the driver's side, the passenger side. There's the on-off button, recirc, and the front and rear defrost. And you also have heated seats, which are 3 zones for the driver and passenger. Down here is a little place that you can put your phone. It perfectly fits an iPhone XS, and Honda's been putting in a little dongle that you can extend your USB port, so you don't have to fiddle around with the wires down there. Down here, all Civics get a CVT, unless if you opt for the manual, which you only can in a few models. And it has a sport mode and a low mode, and when you put the car into reverse, you have a multi-angle backup camera, which you can use with the guidance lines on the when you steer the wheel, and it has 3 views, like the wide view, normal view, and the top-down view, which is nice for when you're backing up close to something. Behind that, you have your brake hold button, your electronic parking brake, and your econ button, which is something I would not use. Now looking at the glove box, it is not damped, which I'm surprised. I thought Honda would address that, because when the Civics first came out, that was one gripe I had about them. But the glove box for the Civic is actually pretty big. You can fit a lot of stuff in there, like the owner's manual. If you're that type of person, you could put an iPad mini or whatever you want in there. Looking at the center console, it's not your traditional center console. Honda's been using this type of center console since the 10th gen Civic came out. So you have this slidable armrest, which you can, when you slide it back, pull it back, and then you have a little tray for your key, which does slide, and you have 2 cup holders which you can pull out. But other than that, you have a big cup holder here that you could put a big gulp or whatever in there.
Now that's what I call a large.
And you also have another USB port down there. And when you slide everything out of the way, it's actually pretty deep, so you could fit a purse or whatever you want to put in there. Over here you have a manual dimming rear view mirror, and then up here you have your sunroof controls right here, your light controls here, and your map lights, which are halogen bulbs. And up top over here, you have visors with lights and mirrors. And yes, Jacob and Yuri, if you guys are watching, thank you, but it does pass the visor test. So overall fit and finish of the Civic is pretty good. Most of the dash is soft touch plastic except above the gauges, which isn't a bad feeling plastic material, but everything else is a nice soft touch material. And you have more of that above the glove box and some fake stitching, which you can tell it's fake stitching, but at least they tried. Other than that, while I'm driving, I can reach all the buttons on the screen, all the climate controls, and of course the shifter, which is really important. Now in the back seat of the Civic, I'm still actually pretty comfortable. The driver's seat is in my driving position, and I'm about 5'8". And I can fit my feet under the seat, and I have about 2 inches of legroom, so that's not too bad. One thing that I would like to see in the next gen Civic, or if they refresh it again, if they carry on the 10th gen for a little bit too long, I'd like to see rear air vents or something for the rear passengers. I know it's a Civic, but I believe Honda can do it. Also in the back, you have a folding armrest with 2 cup holders, and the armrest is pretty comfortable. And like I said, the rear seat is a 60-40 split, and you have a bunch of child latches for baby seats. And I think you could fit 3 medium-sized adults and in a very tight pinch, 3 baby seats. And I hope you don't have 3 babies at the same time.
We have to go give you a bath now. Oh. Emily, no more.
So under the hood of the Civic, the old EX with the 2-liter is dead. Now, for all EX models and above, you get this 1.5-liter turbocharged and direct injected 4-cylinder that's pretty much in every Civic nowadays, and the CR-V. And it makes 174 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. And as for fuel economy, you should be expecting about 32 in the city, 42 on the highway, and a combined rating of 36. Now those are pretty good numbers considering the performance that you get out of this thing, because in the hatchback I drove, that thing was really good. And this car, I haven't floored it yet because I usually wait for my reactions on camera. But just under regular acceleration, it actually does a pretty good job at getting out of its way once the turbo kicks in. And there is a little bit of lag, but I'll talk about that later. One thing that I've been hearing, and I'm pretty sure Honda has addressed it already, is the oil dilution problems, because people would start seeing gas in their oil. So I haven't had any personal experiences with it, but I did hear from several people at Honda that the fix has been addressed. Anyways, let's hear how this thing sounds and then take it out for a spin. So behind the wheel of the Civic, I'm pretty familiar with the 10th gen Civic, especially from a few months ago I drove the hatchback, which was pretty good actually. I was surprised how good that car was. But this car under normal acceleration, it's not too different, and the handling is pretty much the same, at least when you're rolling around at like 10 miles an hour in a parking lot. And then over speed bumps, this is a pretty big one, at 5 miles an hour, it's not terrible, but at the end of the day, it is a Civic. But it's definitely not bad at all. Like, took that one a little bit faster, and it soaks up the bumps pretty well, and throttle response is actually pretty nice too when you're just taking off at a little hill like that. And there's not that much road noise when you're just driving around at like 20 miles an hour, but I will see how it does later on when I'm at a little bit of a higher speed. But so far the ride is it's okay. It could be a little bit better, but it's definitely not uncomfortable, but you can feel the bumps. It's just a little bit jittery compared to the other cars that I've taken on this little driving loop. But it's not horrible, but it's not the most comfortable car. You do hear a little bit more road noise when the road gets a little bit more rough. Like, I'm on this fairly old neighborhood road of mine, and there's construction going on, so there's a bunch of patches in the road. So now under hard acceleration, you feel when the turbo kicks in, and it does mimic shifts, and wow, when you let off, there is like a boost of power that just comes out of nowhere. It's really good. You just feel it surge and like lift you off. It's kind of exhilarating. I kind of like it. It's the same feeling I had with the hatchback. Now obviously you're gonna have a different feeling when you're driving the stick shift version of the 1.5 versus the CVT, and I do expect the stick shift version to be a lot more fun than this, even though this is actually pretty fun. Now also, as you speed up, the steering does stiffen up a little bit, and you do feel that it responds a little bit more to what you're doing to it. And when you start slowing down, like into a parking lot, it does loosen up a little bit. It's still just as responsive, but it just makes it a lot easier to maneuver on some tight corners. And now I have the advantage of flooring it. You feel that this like boost of power as soon as you let off the gas. I don't know why it's when you let off, but it feels good. And this part is usually really bumpy, and it's doing better than my Accord, which is funny, but I do have bigger 19-inch wheels on it, but still. So as for trim levels of the Civic, it starts at the LX, which is $19,450, the Sport, which is $21,150, then the EX, which adds the turbo, which is $23,400, then the EXL, which is $24,600, and then finally the Touring, which is $27,300. Now the LX and Sport get the 2-liter base engine, and the EX through Touring get the 1.5 turbo. Now as for competition, the Civic competes against the likes of the Toyota Corolla, which is neck and neck with the Civic, at least one of them, and it is new for 2020. Then there's the Subaru Impreza, which only has a CVT, but you do get standard all-wheel drive. Then there's the Mazda 3, which is also new for 2020, and the hatchback version of that gets all-wheel drive. Then there's the Hyundai Elantra and Kia Forte, which both give you a lot of bang for your buck. And then finally there's the Volkswagen Jetta, which is probably the most conservative of the bunch. So I hope you all enjoyed getting up close and personal with the Civic EX today. And if you have any questions about it, you can of course leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I usually do. Or you can shoot me an email, which is in the description below. And also a special shout out to Sport Honda of Silver Spring for letting me test out this new Civic today. And if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. I mean, you don't pay for it, Thankfully you don't. But anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Bye, peeps.